Professor George Gatsias is pleased to have the opportunity to share a few remarks about info-communication payment culture and regulations, info-communication industrial sectors, digital transactions and smart currencies, that is Global InfoCash, in the International Conference, The Futures We Want, Global Sociology and the Struggles for Better World, organized by International Sociological Association, Vienna, 10–14 of July 2016. The title chosen for his presentation is Info-Communication Payment Culture and Regulations, Global Control, Local Resistance and the Digital Tax Payments Culture as a Practical Solution to Humanitarian and Economic Crisis. He is afraid he had to fit rather a lot into his presentation, and so some of the arguments are a bit compressed. He has dealt with the development of info-communication payment culture and regulations, and how info-communication industrial sectors affect both digital transactions and payments systems in humanitarian and economic crisis. He has also dealt with the role of info-communication globalization, the Internet, social media and the definition of regulations in a digital tax payments culture. So he would like to spend a bit more time to explain about smart currencies as an info-communication payments system, the definition of regulations, theories of regulation and the definition of public interest. Within this context, he would like to examine all info-communication industrial sectors and 5 types of payments in the info-communication transactions landscape. In addition, he analyzes different payments systems together with the role of self-regulations in free market economy. Finally, he would like to recommend strongly the digital tax payments culture as 3-pronged action program in order to activate the Code of Digital Transactions, CODTRA, for creating a global smart currency, that is Global InfoCash, GIC, together with its local and national smart currencies, that is Global InfoCash Euro, GIC EU, Global InfoCash US Dollar, GIC US, as practical way for Greece, Europe and USA to emerge from humanitarian, cultural and economic crisis. Recently, mobile contactless payments together with plastic credit and debit cards are the main drivers to develop the info-communication payment culture in our everyday transactions. Both mobile phones, as digital wallets, Internet of Things and cloud computing networks have changed how businesses operate, payments systems function, banks work and people live. Now info-communication payments systems are the main forces behind smart currencies and digital tax cultures. According to Accenture, Digital Payment Survey North America report, 67% of citizens, consumers report using cash most frequently. Citizens, consumers also commonly use debit cards, 59%, and credit cards, 50%, and checks less commonly, 16%. Even so, year-over-year data reveal essentially flat growth in consumer preferences for using cash, debit cards and checks, and a 5 percentage points drop in consumers' preferences for credit cards from 2014 to 2015. Figure 1. Consumers' use of digital payments has not stalled, far from it. While there has not been a dramatic upswing in usage in the last year, steady momentum for change continues. Consumers most commonly use PayPal Incorporated, 16%, and retail mobile payment apps, 14%, among digital payments options. Mobile payments are part of our everyday life. Mobile money derives from a 50-year conjuring of a value chain in the act of payment, creating new payment systems to foster efficiencies and generate revenue through transaction fees in the payments info-communication landscape. Payments info-communication landscape, we use that phrase to refer to a new world of retail digital payment systems, everything from credit cards based on magnetic stripe technology, to radio frequency ID chips used to store value or access a remote account, to mobile phones used in various ways as carriers of money, or airtime minutes, text messages and other things that can be transferred from mobile to mobile as a form of currency, to mobile point-of-sale terminals reverse-engineered to serve as a channel for banking and financial services. According to Accenture, Digital Payment Survey North America report, Millennials are key drivers as early adopters of digital payments over cash and cards in payments info communication landscape. For example, 23% of millennials make a mobile payment at a merchant location at least weekly compared to an average of 18%. As they did last year, consumers see themselves using traditional payment instruments less and digital payments more in 2020. They expect regular use of cash to decrease the most, from 67% today to 58% by the end of the decade. They expect significant boosts in their use of retail apps, plus 8 percentage points. Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, plus 7 percentage points, and PayPal, plus 6 percentage points. Survey results show that consumer expectations around future use remain mostly consistent with last year. Figure 2. Recently, a new info communication payment culture together with the emerging of global regulatory mechanisms on the payments info communication landscape have radically changed how cultural organizations, enterprises, banks work and tax systems interact with their citizens, customers and manage their everyday transactions and payments on the info communication landscape. Within this context, info communication payment culture and regulations explore how emerging info communication industrial sectors together with the payments info communication landscape can support the various pillars of payments culture: transparency of payments, accountability of transactions, regulations of digital payments, digital rights, and individual payments privacy, to strengthen and foster the smart payment processes. While there exists substantial evidence that digital technology provides strong support to smart currencies, significant issues still exist and need to be addressed for emerging digital payments models, that is the code of digital transactions and the sponsorship chain credit tax, in order to analyze the digitization of payments and tax systems. Within this context, regulation arrangements in the payments info communication landscape and tax systems do not arise in a vacuum, but evolve over a period of time, and within the context of particular set of political, economic, technological, cultural and social determinants, that is referendum in Britain, Brexit, humanitarian crisis, refugees crisis and terrorism attacks, banking systems, shadow economy, and tax invasion, hacking, self-regulated platforms for digital payment systems, blockchain platforms, Bitcoin, etc. Furthermore, economic citizenship programs (ECPs) have recently been proliferating, with large and potentially volatile inflows of investment and fiscal revenues generating significant benefits for small economies, but also posing substantial challenges. These programs are increasingly being mainstreamed, as high-net-worth individuals consider citizenship, residency as a means to improving international mobility, tax planning, and family security, while also seeking investment opportunities. Further, a growing number of intermediaries have recognized the business opportunities and a new info communication payment culture as more countries launch new programs that cater to such needs. However, as a theoretical framework for examining regulations, mechanisms and public interest in the payments info communication landscape and analyzing info communication payment culture, ICPC, we use the dictionary definition of public interest, the John Francis's exclusive definition of regulation, and Robert Horwitz's classification of 5 general categories of regulation theory, that is public interest theory, perverted public interest theory, conspiracy theory, organizational theory, capitalist state theory. More information about the theories of regulation and the definition of public interest on YouTube channel Global Lecture. The title of the video: Info Communication Power and Politics, Global Control, Local Resistance. According to Professor George Gatsias, all the definitions of public interest together with the above 5 general categories of regulation theory are useful tools to examine the reasons that smart payments regulations are justified imposing restrictions on international banking systems, monetary system, info communication payments platforms, digital tax payments policies, cryptocurrencies, that is Bitcoin, smart currencies, that is global info cash, on the grounds that it is in the public interest of citizens, customers to be protected. Within this context, specific public interest principle to regulate info-communication payments systems have been framed over almost 7 years with reference to wide policy issues on political, social, cultural and economic ecosystem. As a result, info-communication payment culture, that is the culture that constitutes the foundation of all info-communication industrial platforms, as well as the processes challenging banks' operations and tax payments systems, are increasingly shaped and decided in the Digital Tax Payments Culture three-pronged program. According to a number of banking research reports, the info-communication industrial sectors together with smart currencies, that is global info cash, could cut banks' infrastructure costs for cross-border payments, security trading and regulatory compliance by $17 to $22 billion from 2025. Recently, international banking systems together with private business interests has been exposed to a political, cultural and economic crisis. International banking actors, by having info-communication power that enables them to influence asymmetrically the decisions of politicians and other national banking actors in a way that favor the empowered international banking actors' will, interest and values. The concept of international banking actors refers to a variety of subjects of action: individual banking actor, collective banking actors, self-regulatory organizations, and digital banking networks. Regulation mechanisms. The Digital Tax Payments Culture program, together with the domination of digital technologies in a free market economy, transform how the tax system processes information payments and how smart currencies, that is global info cash, operates as a transparent, accountable and reliable system of payments in our everyday life. For big banks, scrambling to modernize their often outdated payment systems in the face of pressure from regulators, digital challengers and cybercriminals, info-communication payments systems represent an opportunity to rethink much of what they do. Professor George Gatsias pointed out that the ability of the code of digital transactions to create a smart currency that is global info cash would have as a result to provide an unforgivable record of identity, including the history of an individual's transactions, is one area being eagerly explored. Intermeshing records could prove highly useful, insurers believe, in cross-checking an individual's actions. The coming era of info-communication payment culture and regulations will unleash a wave of payment systems change as consequential as the changes brought on by the digital technology, e-commerce and the Internet in the end of 20th century. Recently, governments are also investigating the potential of introducing new regulatory mechanisms to establish the info-communication industrial sectors, that is infocom content, devices, services, networks and security and digital tax systems by 2020. For example, more than 1.5 million people who move from poverty into the middle class in developing countries become part of an info-communication economy by investing in info-communication industrial sectors, that is infocom content, services, devices, security, both locally and globally. At the same time, the looser are the people who live in high-cost labor markets like Greece and Europe, whose skills could not keep up with the pace of info-communication industrial sectors, and particular with Infocom PC's developments, that is the Greek system for national and local broadcasting licenses is obsolete for introducing a sustainable business broadcasting investment in the payments info-communication landscape both locally and globally. In 21st century, the domination of digital technology is the primary force behind the emergence of four info-communication industrial sectors, which are the info-communication devices, digital access systems; the info-communication networks, digital distributed systems; the info-communication contents, digital content systems, for example digitalized cultural and creative industries; the info-communication services, digital services systems; the info-communication security, digital security system. Within this context, the last wave of digitization, together with the established of the above info-communication industrial sectors, produces winners, that is the investors and entrepreneurs around fast-growing markets and new innovations. Therefore, it is naive to introduce centralized national broadcasting licensee system at the time of domination of the above infocommunication industrial sectors in infocommunication globalization. Nowadays, digital consumptions and infocommunication practices, really appearing in our everyday life, for example creation and upload of digital images through brand new technologies, cut and paste approach, Googleism, social networks, mobile phones. Professor George Gatsias pointed out you should be taking the payments infocommunication landscape as serious as you should have been taking the development of email, electronic commerce and cloud computing and digital currency in the end of 20th century. Its analogues to email for smart payments systems. The payments infocommunication landscape, PICL, is a type of digital payments space which consists of digital payment systems, that is cryptocurrencies and smart currencies, social media payments systems, cloud computing services for payments transactions, multifunctional infocommunication devices, all type of smart mobile phones, computers, tablets, PCs, etc., payments access points, and broadband networks, that is wired and wireless smart payments networks, in which all national economic, cultural and political systems together with traditional banking and monetary systems become open, transparent and accountable to global and local regulation mechanisms in infocommunication globalization. Within this context, a number of digital types of payments systems are subject to self-regulation on the existing banking and monetary free market economy. For example, we outline only 5 general types of payments, which are: first type of payments, infocommunication acquirers, processors. Acquiring banks, such as Alpha Bank, are members of card networks like MasterCard and Visa, and are responsible for providing merchants with most of the systems they need for accepting card payments. The infocommunication processors are responsible primarily for data transmission and data security, that is security transfer managers. Second type of payments, independent sales organizations, ISO, and merchant service providers, MSP. ISOs and MSPs are entities that sell payment processing infocommunication services to merchants on behalf of acquirers, processors, but are not banks. There is no significant difference between an ISO and an MSP. MSPs are registered with MasterCard, while ISOs are registered with Visa. Third type of payments, infocommunication issuers, issuing banks, or issuers, provide consumers and businesses with debit and credit cards connected to checking or credit accounts. Fourth type of payments, infocommunication card networks. Card networks like Visa or Discover act by using infocommunication industrial platforms as a kind of hub within the card processing ecosystem and serve 2 main functions: routing transactions between issuers and acquirers, and setting the rules by which the infocommunication network of merchants, acquirers, processors, and issuers operates. Fourth type of payments, infocommunication gateway providers. E-commerce companies have certain special requirements for running payment card transactions. Infocommunication gateways like Stripe act as the portal through which e-commerce merchants connect to acquirers. According to Infocommunication Research Society, infocommunication payment culture, ICPC, have reshaped how humanity communicates and how people understand the role of infocommunication payment culture and public interest. Banks are now racing to harness the power of infocommunication payment culture, in a belief that it could cut up to $50 billion off costs and transform the way the banks works in the 21st century. While they understand its potential, many financial institutions are still trying to work out whether smart currencies, that is global InfoCash GIC, offers a cost-cutting opportunity or represents a margin-eroding threat that could put them out of business. Banks are taking a variety of approaches in their search for answers. Some have developed in-house models, such as Citigroup's creation of Citicoin, a digital currency which is not a smart currency and being tested in the bank's laboratory. Others have chosen to invest in a specialist of smart payments networks. According to Accenture Digital Payment Survey results reveal that 19% of U.S. consumers use their mobile phones regularly at merchant locations to make payments. 13% of these consumers say that they use Apple Pay regularly to make purchases at merchant locations. Accenture analysis of these results shows that, on a usage basis, Apple Pay accounts for 68% of in-store mobile phone payments in the United States after less than a year on the market. These findings align with Apple Incorporated's first quarter fiscal year 2015 earnings call report that $2 of every $3 in contactless payments are made with Apple Pay. This strong initial take-up signals the power of the world's #1 brand. It also shows the appeal of technology that is designed to make life easier while being easy to use. There has been a slight but notable shift in usage patterns for consumers who do pay with smartphones. They still typically use them most often for quick service food, drink, grocery and convenience store purchases. Yet use of mobile payments for such simple transactions is creeping down as use for service-oriented payment occasions like taxi services and household bills is growing. Figure 3. According to Accenture report, just like last year, 79% of users would make more mobile payments if offered discount pricing and/or coupons based on past purchasing behaviors. Additionally, 78% would increase usage if they received rewards points. Similar incentives appeal to non-users. Over half would make mobile payments if offered discount pricing or coupons, 54%, or rewards points, 53%. Figure 4. Consumers' interest in rewards is an opportunity for mobile payments providers to not only instant adoption, but to dramatically redefine how they build customer loyalty. Leaders are going beyond points. They are leveraging rich transaction data and third-party partnerships to best understand their customers and to curate rewards to instant top-of-wallet usage. Some of these offers include points-based rewards combined with merchant offers, product and fee, service relationship bundling, and tapping into a broader ecosystem of providers to bring customers additional and advice-driven services. A recent Accenture survey of North American consumers reveals that 86% trust their bank over all other institutions to securely manage their personal data. This foundation of consumer trust gives banks a clear advantage here because data insight is indispensable for meaningful payments-related loyalty and rewards programs. Therefore, banks should be considering seriously to invest on innovative ideas to develop as soon as possible smart codes for currencies, that is the Code of Digital Transactions, CODTRA. The Pew Internet Project and Elon University's Imagining Internet Center pointed out that by 2020 most people will have embraced and fully adopted the use of smart devices swiping for purchases they make, nearly eliminating the need for cash in a global free market economy. The Payments Council report, which oversees payments strategy in the UK, has pointed out that using the physical form of money could be a minority activity by 2050. The Brexit could be the opportunity for UK to develop its own smart currency that is Global InfoCash UK Pound, GIC UK, in order to be the leader in infocommunication payment culture. Professor Gatsias pointed out that the role of infocommunication payment culture is how to build, maintain and modify traditional payments models, which are very important tools for introducing secure smart currencies, that is Global InfoCash, GIC, and payment via smartphones. Vitali Kamliuk, principal security researcher at Kaspersky Lab, which advises clients on digital security, argues that the decentralized nature of distributed ledger technology has still to be reconciled with how such databases can be maintained cleanly and securely. The problem with malicious actors can be quite easily solved when it's a centralized technology. He also says, but this is yet to be solved in cases of decentralized architectures where each participant has equal rights and cannot enforce a sole decision. According to Infocommunication Research Society reports, the lack of a global regulatory mechanism to collect taxes, to control free market prices, to supervise financial transactions, to manage digital transactions and to introduce a global smart currency system, are among the main reasons for capital controls measures in Greece and the recent Brexit. Finally, the question in the end is, how safe is all of this, and would you put your life savings on a global smart currency system? What do regulators and central banks do about it, and can banks and regulators guarantee it? There are more than 250 technology startups, mostly in the US and UK, developing ideas for how to make digital platforms for payments work for financial services. In conclusion, Professor Gatsias points out that a vital corrective to the problems in technology and regulation of info-communication payment culture at global level would be the three-pronged action program, the digital tax payments culture, which consists of their legal standards for global info cash. This action program aims to create a globally compatible legislative framework in which all interested parties agree to use the smart form of digital money, that is the global info cash, for goods, products and services. This program should be able to create a regulatory mechanism both globally and locally in order that irresponsible behavior on the digital platforms for payments will be penalized by criminal and economic sanctions. Global info cash transaction rights. This action program aims to create a network of hierarchical regulative mechanisms for managing and controlling a global smart currency growth. The production of the global info cash as a global smart currency should be subject to a specific multicultural set of public interest principles and smart blockchain digital rights. Smart transactions of digital rights in which all interested parties know where to ask for support for their problems and where to complain at local, national, regional and global levels, and global info cash multicultural policies, strategies and regulations. This action program aims to develop a globally compatible framework of multicultural policies, strategies and regulations for switching to a global smart currency that is GIC with local touch digital rights to value transactions that is GIC EU. These types of multicultural policies, strategies and regulations are likely to be subject to the transparency, accountability, reliability, global public interest principles, participatory freedom and democracy of local and global collective will. In conclusion, the Info Communication Research Society pointed out that the competitive advantages of the digital tax payment culture are flexibility, the ability to establish a global smart currency system that is GIG, centralized global smart currency, with its local smart currencies, that is GIC EU, centralized local smart currency, and its national smart currencies that is GIC UK, GIC US, GIC GR, centralized national smart currency. For example, the ownership of payment systems has changed radically. The banking system no longer specializes only in payment systems. They now operate across as an insurance companies or security transactions managers, STM, in complex webs of alliance, partnership and joint venture. Scalability, the ability to create, manage and control local smart currencies with global reach that is GIC EU, GIC US, GIC GR, GIC CY, GIC UK, etc. by activate the code of digital transactions as a smart blockchain technology and centralized regulatory mechanism. For example, the info-communication payment systems as a global payments ecosystem have become increasingly important in local markets due to humanitarian crisis and the recent Brexit. Survivability, the ability to develop a smart regulation mechanisms that is global regulation payment mechanisms, local regulative payment mechanism and national regulative payment mechanism for centralized and decentralized control on smart currencies both locally and globally. For example, the traditional regulation of payment systems has undergone significant shifts. Long-standing traditions of banking ownership and regulations of payment systems have been dismantled. Important monetary policy decisions are increasingly carried out at global info communication markets, that is encouraging the emerging of info-communication payment culture in order to activate the code of digital transactions for the creation of a global smart currency that is global info cash.